You know what? I'm not sure if the microphone was working. But if you have this rubber band and we stretch to 3 times, it would make it longer or narrower. And it makes it skinnier. Versus if I compress it to 1/2, if you notice when I let go of it, it makes it wider. So if it's 3 times the height and 3 times the size, it makes it a whole lot longer. It's called a vertical stretch. However, it's kind of weird with a rubber band, but if I push it upwards, if it was like a fraction, 1/2 or 1/4 or something like that, you'll see the parabola kind of goes outwards, and that makes it wider. So now let me switch back to the broadcast of that. And yes, so, okay, so what does that mean? Well, this A value was equal to -3. Well, the negative makes it go upside down, makes it a sad parabola, and the 3 stretches it 3 times steeper. So the real one is still we've got from this dot, it's now going down, but instead of as wide as the parent function, it would be narrower. So it's actually called a vertical stretch, and also with a -3 means it actually was reflected or flipped, or we're going to write reflected, reflect. It was reflected over the vertex. Okay, let's look at B. X minus 8 squared. So what you're going to do, same thing, write the equation. Y equals AX minus H squared plus K. Well, the A value is what's in front of the parentheses, and there isn't anything, so we're going to assume it's a 1. The H is what's the opposite of what's in the parentheses. Remember, this is HK, but the H value is opposite of the negative. So what's the opposite of -8?
Positive.
Very good. And then the K value, there's nothing outside of it, so the K is a 0. And my A value is equal to 1. So how does that compare with Y equals X squared? Well, let's sketch Y equals X squared, our parent function. I'm going to do that in red. It's just your plain Jane parabola. That would be like if I had to plot the point 0, 0, you have X, you have Y equals X squared. 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9. -1 squared is also +1. -2 squared is +4. So with that being said, what would happen with this one? It's basically the entire parabola is just shifted to the right 8. And you could graph both of those on your calculator and you could see that. So we're going to move to the right 8, and then nothing else different from the parent function happens to this parabola. But now on the third one, Y equals -1/2 X plus 3 squared plus 4. You have Y equals -1/2. Oops, let's write the vertex form. Y equals AX minus H squared plus K. Once again, what's the vertex? The vertex is the opposite of 3, so it's -3. The K is the exact same value. So this really means you're moving to the left 3, and then you're going up 4. The steepness is your A value. Because it's a negative, it means it's going to be reflected across the vertex. And 1/2 means instead of it being the normal size, it's going to be half the size. It's going to be squished. It's that vertical compression. So it's half as steep, or it's a vertical compression. Okay, so vertical compression, left 3, up 4, and because of the negative, it actually was reflected across the vertex. Okay, question number 2. Identify the missing information. Y equals -1/2 X plus 1 squared plus 1. First thing we want to identify is the vertex. The vertex, we can write it below, is the opposite of what's in the parentheses. So it's -1. The Y value is +1. Remember, our axis of symmetry is X equals -B over 2A, but we also know it's the exact same thing as the X value of our vertex. So X equals -1. Let's start with those 2 points on the graph. So we're going to go to -1, +1, put our dots. We're going to draw a line of symmetry in the middle because we know everything is a reflection. around the line. And then we're going to go to the middle of our chart, and we're going to put negative 1, 1 in the middle of our chart because it's our vertex. Then you can actually go one value above or one value below. So after negative 1 comes 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. And as you go backwards, negative 2, negative 3. Well, let's think about this. What happens if you plug 0 in for your x? What's 0 plus 1? That's 1. What's 1 squared? 1. And what's negative 1/2 times 1? Negative 1/2. And negative 1/2 plus 1 is, and we plugged in a 0, is 0.5. Remember how we told you that the vertex is the middle? Well, you can draw your rainbow, because if you also plugged in negative 2, you would get the exact same thing of 0.5. Let's verify that for those of you who don't believe me. Negative 2, what's negative 2 plus 1? It is a negative 1, but negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Positive 1 squared times negative is still negative 1/2, and negative 1/2 plus 1 is still a 0.5. Same thing, you could go through and you can plug in 1 to our equation. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. 2 squared is 4. Half of 4 is 2, and then we multiply it by the negative. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Once again, this makes the reflection. That's also negative 1. The other thing is you got your calculators, so you can always go to y equals, type in the equation, and then hit the table button, and you have all these values typed in there. When you plot the point on your test, I expect to see at least 5 points. So we have negative 1, 1 is our vertex, and then we're going to do these symmetrical points. So we're going to go negative 2, up 0.5, and at 0, 0.5. And then we're going to do negative 3, 1, negative 3, negative 1, and 1, negative 1. And if you notice, when we connect the dots and draw a parabola, we at least have 5 points. There is your parabola. It was reflected going down. It was vertically compressed, and it had been shifted over to negative 1, 1 from the vertex. Filling in the data, is it a min or a max? This happens to be a max. The domain is x equals all real numbers. The range is y is less than or equal to the y value of my vertex. And the max value is y equal 1. Okay, question number 3. Given the information, how would you do this without a calculator? We just kind of practiced that with the last one. Same thing. You have to start with plugging in numbers. Start with 0, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to put them on my chart because those are the easiest numbers to deal with. And you actually have to calculate it. What is 0 squared plus 2 times 0 plus 3? 0 plus 0 plus 3 is?
3.
3. Excellent. And if we plug in 1, and you know, at some point you should be able to start to do this mentally. 1 squared is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Plus 3. 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. We plug in 2. 2 squared is 4. 2 squared is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. So what's happening with these numbers? They're getting bigger. Is 0, 3 necessarily my vertex? No. Let's keep going till we can see it actually reflect across each other. Let's plug in negative 1 to the expression. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2 plus 3. 1 minus 2 is negative 1 plus 2 is 2. And now let's plug in negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 4. What's 4 minus 4? 0. 0 plus 3 is 3. Are we starting to get the rainbow?
Yeah.
So we know the middle of my rainbow
is -1, 2.
And that is my vertex. So now, how did we do with graphing calculator? You plugged in 0, 1, 2, 3 until we noticed the rainbow. Okay, once you've done that, -1, 2, you can plot that on the graph. You can plot -2, 3. You can plot 0, 3. You can plot 1, 6. You can plot -3, 6. We have at least 5 points. We can start to see the shape of the parabola. The axis of symmetry is the x equal of the vertex. It is a min. The min value is the y value of the vertex. So y equals 2, and it's a min, and domain is x equals all real numbers. And the range is y. Since it's a min, it's greater than or equal to 2.
Mine equals
Done. Voila, it's finished.
voila.
Okay, problem number 4. I'm going to list the steps for you because it makes, and I'm only going to do one of these on the video. The answer key is posted, but you have -1/2 parentheses x minus 2 squared minus 4. We want to convert it to standard form. So to convert it to standard form, you're going to FOIL.
What does that mean?
You're going to distribute the a value,
Which one's that?
and then you're going to combine like terms. So let's do the first one. Y equals -1/2 x minus 2 squared plus 4. Not quite sure why I rewrote the problem, but I did. We're going to take the square. You're going to write it twice. And remember when we FOILed, first times first, outside, inside, last, and did all the rainbows, and we
Miss
double
Mark?
distribute. Mhm.
It's -4, not +4.
Excellent. Thank you. Voila. So I didn't end up with the wrong answer. X squared minus 2x minus 2x plus 4. Okay. After you FOIL, and then there's a -4. I'm going to put them in green so you can see this -4. He goes at the very end. But the reason I hesitated in putting that in there is when we distribute, you don't distribute to that -4. You only distribute that -1/2 to what we FOILed. Don't go outside that FOILing. Don't go outside that number. Don't touch that last number. So -1/2 x squared. Negative times negative is positive 1x. Negative times negative is positive 1x. -1/2 times 4 is -2. Bring down the -4. Don't forget about him. And then last step is combine like terms. So combine your x's. 1x plus 1x is 2x.
And -6.
And -2 and -4 is -6. And bring down the -1/2 x squared. And you're all fabulous mathematicians, so you did not forget the y equals. You have converted it from vertex form to standard form.
I think I got this wrong with star.
You're not allowed to tell me what's on star.
That was on the star.
Hey. Okay. Number 5. Solve algebraically the following equations by taking the square root. All this means is just go back to first semester and solve it. This is doing, I'm not going to do B. I'm going to just move on. Okay, here we go. 3x squared minus 7 equals 101. What's the opposite of subtracting 7?
Adding 7.
Adding 7. What's the opposite of multiplying by 3?
Dividing.
Dividing by 3. And what's the opposite of squaring?
Not
Square rooting.
squaring.
Square rooting, and like we learned in our dance earlier in the class, when you square root, you put a
Plus or minus.
plus or minus in front of both square roots. So you have to do that plus or minus. X equals plus or minus 6. If you don't put that plus or minus, I'm marking the whole problem wrong.
That's kind of mean, Miss Kern.
It is, but I've got to get you to do the plus or minus. Okay, B. What's the opposite of adding 8?
Subtracting.
Subtracting 8. What's the option? Multiplying by 5.
Dividing.
And 80 divided by
Is
5.
4.
No.
Or-
You're also the one who-
80 divided by 5. 5 goes into 8 one time. 5 goes into 30 6 times. And when we square root, what do we put in front?
Plus or minus 4.
Plus or minus 4. And you are all fabulous, so you are all going to remember that plus or minus. Question number, and then you're singing High School Musical. Love it. Number 6, graph. Given the graph below, how many solutions are there? And what are the solutions? Okay, does it cross the x-axis?
Nope.
So what?
There's no solution.
How many solutions? We want a number.
None.
0. And then what are they? You would say none or no solutions. Okay, how many solutions are on the second guy?
1, 2, 3, 4,
2. What would one solution look like? It would touch the x-axis at one spot. That vertex is on the x-axis. But this one has 2 solutions. What are they? -3, 0, and -1, 0. Okay, number 7. Solve the following by factoring. Well, just like completing the square, what's step 1?
You have to.
Move everything.
To the left.
Everything has to be moved to the left before we can factor. So we have x squared
10.
plus 7x plus 10 equals 0. Okay, remember how we said what multiplies to give me 10, but combines to give me 7.
5 and 2.
Excellent, 5 and 2.
Congrats.
So that's our speed factoring. So we have x plus 5 and x plus 2. We set it equal to 0. We want to set the first parentheses equal to 0. Take the second parentheses, set it equal to 0. The opposite of adding is subtracting. I'm going to move this out of the way in just a second.
Oh no, it's fucking the Lord.
So x equals -2. Let me shrink. Okay, and once again, I like you to write your roots as
Coordinate points.
coordinate points. -5, 0, and -2, 0. Okay, B, step 1, move everything to the left. B squared plus
Plus.
2b plus 35.
Wait, it's -35 though.
Yep, it's minus. Minus 35 equals 0.
Then you move everything.
We moved everything to the left.
I'm just kidding.
And then now what multiplies to give me -35, but combines to give
7 and
me 2 is positive
7 and -5.
7 and -5. Okay. So we do our speed factoring. B plus 7, B minus 5 equals 0. Set the first guy equal to 0. Set the second guy equal to 0.
B equals -7 and B equals +5.
And B equals plus 5. And Ms.
But you have to write them as
Kearns
coordinate points.
likes it as,
Wrong.
now, but I mean, they could just say B equals -7 or 5. However, we're just trying to keep the understanding of these are our roots. These are our zeros. These are our coordinate points. Okay. Number, what is this? 7C. Okay, step 1. Move everything to the left. 10b squared minus 27 plus 18 equals 0. Okay, we don't have a GCF out of everybody, so now we have to do the long grouping methods. A times C is 180.
Well, that's a big number.
And it has to combine to give me -27.
So that means both of the numbers have to be negative.
Both have to be negative, and that would be,
Mental math,
20 times 7.
nope.
wrong.
20 times
Can we get
9.
a calculator real quick?
27 times 9.
We do our y equals on the calculator.
80 divided by x, and then you hit
One
table.
180 divided by x. Hit table. Look at the choices, and to get to 27, we need a
Oh,
30 and 2,
wait, boy,
Wait.
we don't get killed.
9, 10, and 18, 12 and 15. That's it. 12 times 15. So we have negative 12.
And negative 15.
Beautiful. So now, this is the A times C, split the B. Negative 12B, negative 15B, bring down the 10B squared, bring down the plus 18.
Now you have to find a common
GCF out of the first two.
GCF out
We
of
got
the
that
second
2, we got that 3.
So this is 2B, and we want a G, and that would be 5B minus 6. And
Minus, bring down that minus sign.
bring down the minus sign.
Yeah, we do
Negative
that.
3.
Shut up.
And it's also 5B. Keep in mind, when you divide by that negative 3, that's where you get the negative 6. Now you want to GCF the first, or the GCFs go in the first parentheses. What they have in common goes in the second parentheses. And now we're going to take the first parentheses and set the first parentheses equal to 0. 2B minus 3 equals 0. 5B minus 6 equals 0. Add 3 to both sides.
B equals 3 over 2.
And then divide by 2. So B equals 3 divided by 2. And
over there,
then-
B equals 6 over 5.
Add 6 to both sides and then divide by the 5. So B equals 6 over 5.
Wait,
Wait, do we have to set all of them to 0?
You'll always have to set them equal to 0. That's why we moved everything to the left first, to make sure it's in standard form before we start to factor it.
Have you learned this from before?
Absolutely. Okay. Number 8. Given the parabola, write the equation in vertex or standard form with and without using technology. Now, if we had technology, you would be able to hit that stats, edits, and stats, calc. And then I believe it's the 5th one down, so it's a quadratic regression. After the stat edit is to insert the stuff in the table. The stat calc is to calculate the equation. And then you write it down. Let's look at it without a graphing calculator. Okay. The vertex. You know the vertex. -2, -1. Let's do the vertex on the second one.
That's supposed to be a -1.
Thank you. And then +1,
4.
4. Now you have to pick a point on the graph. It is your choice what point you pick. I would pick a root or a 0 or something that's a nice, pretty whole number. I probably would not pick things that are messy decimals. So this one, I'm going to choose 3, 0. It just happened to be something that I could see on the graph.
Wouldn't it be 0, 3?
It would be 0, -3.
-3.
So 0, 3.
Yeah, because 0 is on the x-axis, so it goes first, and 3 is on the y-axis.
It goes over 0, up 3.
What?
Watch. And then on the second one, I happened to do the roots, which was -3, 0. I could have done 5, 0.
Oh, she's all with the
Okay, you just, okay. Question, now, how do we do the equation? I would do it,
Wait, what if we-
I would do it in vertex form. Y equals A, x minus h squared plus k. This ties into the catapult project, and when we spent the whole day doing the math one day on figuring out the catapult and the equation, this is where this comes from. The vertex, I'm going to do it with a highlight. The vertex goes in for the h
And the k.
and the k. The point goes in for the x
And the y,
and the y,
solve for a.
and solve for a. So let's work that out. So 3, I need space down here. 3 equals a, parentheses, 0 minus -2 squared minus 1, because that k value is a -1. Okay, take a minute and make sure you pause the video if you need to, but make sure you understand where those values came from. The h, the vertex is your h and your k. The points on the graph is your x and your y. And I just plugged them in. The x, the y, the h, and the k. Okay, now we got to calculate. Do what's in parentheses. 0 minus -2 is a +2. 2 squared is equal to 4. This is what looks slightly different. Let's bring down that a. Let's bring down the a. And let's bring down the -1. Well, why this is so uncomfortable for you guys is you are not used to that a being in front of the 4. If you will switch it around to help your brain out, it will be much easier for you to think about how to solve it. The opposite of subtracting 1 is
Adding.
3 plus 1 is equal to
4.
and
So
4.
a equals 1.
4 times a, divide both sides by 4, and 1 equals a. So my a is my 1. And then the last step that you're going to do, and all this comes back up here to the work. Okay, the last step that what you're going to do is you're going to plug in, zoom in, you're going to plug in the h, the k, and the a. This is the hardest problem that you guys will get on the test. You've got to practice it 3 times. If you do it 3 times, it's a piece of cake. Okay, there are no messy numbers. There's nothing, but it's the exact same time, but you've got to do it enough times that you can do it on your test.
Wait, is this the whole?
So the last step, we're going to plug in the h, the k, and the a. We do not plug in the x and the y. So your final answer is y equals, my a value is 1. My h value was -2. So you have x minus -2 squared plus k, or minus k, because k was -1. There's your answer. And obviously 2 negatives make a positive.
I think I got smarter today.
I think you've always been smart.
That's debatable.
Okay, you need to practice it on the next one. Okay, numbers 9, A, and B I did in class. How much time? We have lots of time. I'll go ahead and do number C with y'all, because this is the one that I have not done on the board. Okay, this is how do you complete the square. This was the dance that I taught everybody. I could turn it on live camera. We could do the whole dance, but I'm gonna put it I'm gonna put it on Twitter, so you guys will be able to check it out anyways. How do you complete the square? Step 1, you have to move everything to the left. With that, you also have to know that A has to be equal to 1. And what I mean by that A has to be equal to 1,
You have to divide everything by 4.
divide everything by 4, even the 0.
Whoa, that's crazy.
V squared plus 4V minus
That's crazy.
1, whoops, minus 16.25
0.25.
equals 0. Okay, step 1 is everything on the left. Yes. Step 2, you move the number. So V squared plus 4V equals 16.25.
And then you divide by 2 and square root the b, and
Wait.
that would be
V
4.
divided by 2 squared. So I'm going to take the 4, divide it by 2, and square it. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. That goes on both sides. Where did that 4 come from? B divided by 2 squared. Okay, next step is you're going to do the 2 parentheses. And then the B divided by 2 goes in both parentheses. What's 4 divided by 4? 2.
2.
And since the positive is in front of the 4, you bring it down.
Positive, because positive 4 divided by 2 is positive 2.
And that would be 20.25.
We've calculated the rights to be 20.25. And
And
then
combine everything.
2 parentheses become
One.
1 parentheses, and you square it.
And then you do plus minus square root.
Yeah. Okay, then we want to square root both sides. Don't forget your
Plus and minus.
plus or minus. So V plus 2 equals, move that plus or minus square root of 20.25 over. You can actually calculate that out as a decimal, or you can leave it that way. That's fine with me. And the opposite of adding 2 is,
Subtracting.
so this is going to be negative 2 over here. And that's where we move the 2 over. That is your answer. And if you had done the quadratic equation, negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, you would have got the exact same thing. So what is the quadratic formula? That's on your formula sheet. X equal negative b
Over 4a
plus or minus b squared
plus 4a or minus 4ac
minus 4ac all over 2a. By the way, I did figure out, of course, after the STAR test, how you could actually, did you know you can store a value in Desmos?
Hardly you said we can hack the Desmos thing.
It is so intuitive, I couldn't even figure it out.
He is a calculator too.
Okay, so with the calculator, we have the store button. And if I wanted to store, let's see here, what's my A value? My A value is equal to 1. My B value is 16. My C value is 59. If everybody wants to get out your Desmos or you want to get out your calculator,
I'm good.
on the calculator, you can hit the store button. On Desmos, anybody want to take a guess at what the store button is?
maybe
Arrow.
settings.
It's not an arrow.
It's the A with the
It's simpler than A with a thingy.
You click on functions.
What? There's one. It's an A. I'll give you that.
Oh, it's with the 2 lines.
Simpler than that.
A with a B.
There is 2 lines, but they're both horizontal.
A equals number.
A equals 1. I have just stored 1 into A. Now you come down here and you do B equals, what's your B value?
16.
So we do B equals 16. I have just stored 16 into B.
That's crazy.
And then you do C equals 59. Now, we type in the quadratic equation. Just don't do the x equals part. You would actually do negative, well, B. You can't do the plus or minus. You're going to have to make a choice and pick one of the symbols. Plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC. Now, to get the whole thing,
Yeah, I had to put it in parentheses.
you have to put the parentheses. We put the whole thing in parentheses and then divide by 2a, and it calculates your negative 5.76. On your calculator, you can do the exact same thing.
Ms. Kearns, how come I didn't know this was STAR?
I forgot. As intelligent as I am, actually, to be real honest, I didn't even realize it till after STAR. I'm like, why is there no store button on Desmos? And I sat there and I thought, and finally, my brain goes, oh my gosh, it's the equal button. And it was so obvious that I didn't even think of it.
I might fail STAR. because that's-
Oh, you did not. Okay, x equals negative b, negative 16 plus or minus the square root of 16 squared minus 4 times 1 times c Now, all over 2 times 1. Keep in mind, I'm probably not going to let you use the calculate or the Desmos, so you need to be familiar with that using it not. So you calculate only the part under the square roots. What's 16 minus 4 times 1 times 59? Somebody have that for me? Negative 236. So you do square root of 236 all over 2. You type in the top. You must hit enter and then type in divided by 2. If you do not hit that enter button, you will be wrong 9 out of 10 times. If you're smart enough to remember your parentheses, you don't have to hit the enter button. But most of us forget, so we want to go ahead and just be safe. Calculate the top, hit enter. Negative 2 plus square root of 236. Enter is 13.36. 13.36 divided by 2 is equal to 6.68. If you look back on my Desmos, when I had hit plus, oh, wait, I did it wrong. Hold on a second. Let me back up. 16 squared minus 4 times 1 times 59 is 20. Whoops, I calculated that wrong. 20, so 16, negative 16 plus the square root of 20 is 11.5 divided by 2 is negative 5.76.
So you do, after you do the 16 plus or minus the square root of whatever, then you divide?
Yes.
I messed that up. Oops.
And then you have to do once with the plus and then once with the minus. So negative 16, the minus, negative 16 minus the square root of 20 is negative 20.47 divided by 2 is negative 10.23. And if you go back to your Desmos and use it, you would change your plus to a minus, and it does all the thinking for you. So that's how you store values into Desmos. Then, now the most challenging problem on the entire test.
Is it gonna be colored?
It will not. I will copy it black and white for you so that you will be thoroughly challenged.
Wait. Why won't it be in color?
Because your test will be black and white because that's what our copy machine saves us money. Okay, you have a rectangle koi pond that measures 6 feet by 8 feet. You have enough concrete to cover a 72-foot for a walkway as shown in the diagram. What should the width of the walkway be? Now, I wish I could pause the video, but I can't, so I'm going to work it out the best. So, how wide is the pond part from the water to the water? 6 feet. How wide is the walkway on the left?
X.
How wide is on the right?
X.
So it's x plus x, which is 2x plus 6, is how wide the concrete zone is.
That's challenging.
If x was 1, oh wait, that's not 6, that would be 8. You are right. So 2x plus 8. And then if we go the other way, you have x plus the 6. So you have 2x plus 6. And the story prompt said all of this is going to multiply to give you 72.
So you do FOIL.
We FOIL and then move everything to the left.
We've done 2x plus a and 2x plus b.
Yeah, 2x plus 8 and 2x plus 6. 2x times 2x is 4x squared plus 12x plus 16x plus 48 equals 72. What did happen here? Oh, I sure hope I didn't just record all of that. No. I think I just recorded all of that with y'all not being able to see anything. We'll see. We'll play it back at the end. 4x squared plus 28x plus 48 equals 72. Nope.
No.
Subtract 48. Actually, I'm sorry. Subtract 72, subtract 72. 4x squared plus 28x minus 26.
Hey, no horse play in a classroom.
Guess what?
Chicken butts.
Hey, 72 minus 48 is 24. Oops. I have a feeling that was totally. Could you couldn't see my screen when you were in there, could you? When you were
I can check.
helping, you're gonna check for me? Find out if it was an epic fail. Huh? Well, the link is already there. It should be the link where it says the YouTube video for. Well, the screen keeps not refreshing and I'm having a hard time seeing the answer key. I want to make sure I tell you this one last step. Nothing got recorded.
It's only 15 minutes. I can go back 15 minutes. We've already started.
Is it what's it just showing? Well, that recorded.
Is that where you started?
That's everything there. Why didn't it only let you go back 15 minutes? You know, interesting. It only lets you go back 15, but everything worked. Never mind. It was working. So the okay. Oh, I know what I'm missing. So now here's the one thing I was not doing correctly. That's why I paused. Oops. Gentlemen. Okay, here's what I had not done. So after you did all the foiling, what you had to realize is this represents the area of the concrete that he could use. Unfortunately, we use the outside section. Do you concrete in the pond area?
Underneath
No. So you need to remove 48 from both sides. So you subtract 48 from both sides, which is what I thought I was doing. And if you subtract 48 from both sides, why won't this show up? It gives us and then you move this. Okay, you don't subtract it from both sides. That's what I was. You subtract 48 off of the main area. And so this is gone. And you have to move the 72 over. So move the 72 this side. It's minus 72 equals 0. Divide everything by 4. X squared plus 7x minus 4 goes in 72, 1, 18. And then last but not least, we want to factor. So we factor the expression. What multiplies to give me 18? X plus 9, x minus 2 equals 0, x equals negative 9, and x equals positive 2. Okay, here's where common sense has to come into play. Can you have a negative length of anything? No. So your negative, even though it's a root, even though it's a factor, it's not realistic. At the end of the day, your koi pond, you have enough concrete for this to be 2 feet wide. That's how wide this is. And then it'll be 2 feet tall up here.
It's not that big of a.
Okay. If you translate number 12, if you translate it down, if it starts at plus 2, shh,
My bad.
it's all recorded for any parent to see. If it translates down 7
Wait,
units,
it's recording this way too?
it's recording anything we can hear.
Oh.
Hey,
Moves down, the correct answer is C. Okay, which 2 equations have the same y-intercept? Well, what you need to pay attention to is your, right there is your C. Right there is your y-intercept. So think about the first one. If it has a y-intercept, a plus 4, that would be right there. Is this a happy parabola or a sad parabola?
Happy parabola.
So does that cross the y-axis?
No.
Okay, now with another color, I'm going to do H. Okay, it starts at plus 7. That's going to be up here. And then it's a negative 3/4. Is that a happy parabola or sad parabola?
Sad parabola.
And then with another color, I'm going to do green. It's going to start at plus 5. And then it's a sad parabola. And last but not least, let's do it with blue. It starts at plus 4. And then it's a happy parabola.
Parabola.
Like,
So,
how do you erase so
With that being said, which 2 equations have the same y,
F and J.
y and jet? Y-intercept is F and J. Which 2 have a maximum? That would be maximum are the ones with a,
Happy parabola.
no, maximums have a sad parabola. So that's G and H. And which 2 don't cross the x-axis? Purple and blue, which is F.
Why is your time 9:41?
Probably because I was playing Candy Crush.
And it hasn't changed.
Wait,
F.
like Candy Crush, so you like stop the time?
She cheats. She cheats.
Wow.
F and G. Okay, guys, sit back down. The bell is not ring. Okay, number 14. If a catapult is launched from the origin, it starts at 0, 0. It has a maximum height of 5.26.3. Here's the easiest question you're all going to miss. That means it is traveled over 5.2 feet. It traveled up 6.3 feet. This is the halfway point. Where is it going to land?
Another 5.2 feet.
Another 5.2 feet, which is 10.4 feet away. It would be 10.4 feet, 0. Number 15. What's the solution set? Guys, nobody should be touching their backpacks. The bell is not rang. We are not done. F of x equals 0. That's where's the y equal to 0. It's somewhere between 5 and 7, which is 7.5 and 17.5. And last but not least, which graph has a vertex of 3, 5? That would be this one and this one. But it contains the point 5, 13. That means when I plug in 5 and I plug in 13, that has to still be a true statement. Okay.